Northeast Southern Mississippi just got destroyed. We're trying to help the people. Just pray for them, okay? Just pray for them. Terrible. We're Hattiesburg. It's terrible. They just got destroyed. We're on the whole way. No, we're helping people.
I knew there was going to be people that had died. How many, I didn't know. We were hoping it would be low.
Watch out for the line.
All the emergency responders were all ready to go. It was very impressive how quickly they were out there.
I made my way checking for any victims. That came across a young lady from the University of Alabama. She was sitting in her car, terrified, because she had just rode out the tornado. She had a cat and a hedgehog with her. And so we grabbed the cat, grabbed the hedgehog, and I went and took her inside of a girl's dorm and told them to take care of her, give her any assistance that she needed.
One of the on-campus residence halls was hit by the storm. So it didn't completely collapse it, but it blew out a lot of the windows and knocked off good chunks of it.
Luckily for us, no deaths were reported from our campus. But at the time, we didn't know about the rest of the city of Hattiesburg.
I took over driving and I raced over to my mom and dad's house. I knew my dad had a weather radio in the house. Dad takes his weather seriously. They were safe. They were okay. I remember we were in my parents' driveway after all this happened. Dad was helping me tape up the back glass. And I remember seeing in the sky, you could still see just an angry sky. It looked like another storm was heading our way.
He said there's a gas leak and a fire. Oh, look at that church, man. It's like everything is... Look at that. The telephone pole. That is where we crossed in front of it, right there.
We went back onto Hardy Street, immediately after it had happened, and it was just a swath of land that was just chewed up. There was just destruction and people wandering around in it. It was so dark and you couldn't see. All the electricity was out. I was just awestruck at the power of this thing, at the wind. This was just wind.
This is what we were out running. Look down there. Hank, look what happened. This is what, it was right behind us.
It kind of hit us all of a sudden, like, we've got animals at home, like, have our homes been destroyed? We first went to Hank and Corley's house. It was fine. My house, it's fine. But the drive home is where we started seeing a lot of destruction.
Yeah.
We started going through the neighborhoods on foot with the assistance of the fire department, checking for anyone injured. Some houses, there was nothing left but a slab. And, they would wonder if the people were injured or anything like that.
Copy. We're just a little bit past East 7th Street.
We had officers going into houses that, when they came out, found out that they had natural gas lines going to them and they were leaking. We had officers that were getting sick on the side of the road. And as soon as they got through being sick, they were back in the houses looking again. Even with headlights, it was so dark, you couldn't see anything.
Blackness is a whole complete different kind of blackness when the power's out. Pitch black and it's pouring down rain. There were power lines everywhere. People lost everything. There were people that were crying, sitting on bricks and pieces left of their foundation. People going through china cabinets, people standing on umbrellas in the pouring down rain, pulling out things that were left from their closet. No roofs on their home, no walls standing. You see people countless time and time again crying, hugging one another, telling the story of how they did survive. It does take a toll on you.
Now, all these numbers that you heard out here today, whether there's 200 homes or 3,500 or 4,000 houses without power, you can imagine those numbers will go up. They are going to go up. The number we don't want to go up are fatalities. That number is at zero. We want it to remain at zero. We were really, at that point, we still didn't have one fatality in this event. But we were aware that there was a possibility.
I'm standing here in Mr. Jerry Lewis's, what used to be his garage. As you can see, there is debris everywhere. The tornado came right through here. Mr. Lewis's family, they were looking out the window and they were watching a woman hanging on to that pole right there. She was holding on to that for her dear life. Now, obviously,
there's story after story after story about people in one room and for whatever reason moving to the next room. When a tree falls in the room they move from.
One home in particular, an elderly lady was still in the home. She had some things stored in some big plastic crates. She was in the living room when the storm came through. It lifted her home up enough, basically moved it about 50 to 75 feet. She hit the floor, and those boxes came over between her and a corner of their house. And that room was pretty much the only thing that was not destroyed on that home.
The tornado had hit Oak Grove High School. I had no idea on a Sunday that there was anyone there, but it turns out there was a team there at the time. The team actually ran into the bathroom in the gymnasium. Fortunately, there was no one in their field house. You had a lot of damage there.
I met the sweetest man, and I remember him telling me his story. His wife was bedridden at the time, and he told me that he put a mattress over her, and he got himself on top of the mattress. He said the roof fell on him, and by the time it was all over, the entire house was gone, but they didn't have a scratch on them.
We waited to find out if there were any fatalities and not knowing what the results were going to be. I've been on the end of waiting for a baby to be born, and it's that anxious moment to make sure the baby is fine. It's almost just that same kind of feeling, and that sadness if you find someone who who lost their life.
We did have damage in the county. We had some significant damage to homes and structures. We do have power outages still. We have about 4,800 customers that are without power.
We had already started our way back to Jackson. We started getting reports on the radio that there's a bunch of injuries. We thought for certain there were deaths from that tornado. I thought for sure.
We know that 63 individuals were transported to the 2 local hospitals, and they were treated there.
You have